A Reddit user by the name of big_distribution dropped a question that's been living rent-free in all of our heads every time we hit the grocery store, the gas pump, or the local drive-thru. Why is everything getting so expensive? What the hell is going on? Another user, Winky Willow, hit the nail on the head with a chilling truth. We seem to be paying for luxury, but buying just to survive. This is because they can. They were dead right. And honestly, nothing captures this brutal reality better than that dark liquid you're sipping on right now. This morning, when you bought that cup of coffee, you didn't just buy a drink. You unknowingly bankrolled a brutal geopolitical war, a collapsing climate, a ridiculous mountain of European red tape, and the third mega yacht of some hedge fund bro on Wall Street. You think regular old inflation is the reason your iced latte costs $8? Think again. Hold on to your cup, because we're about to pull back the curtain on the greatest legal heist in modern history. And trust me, it leaves a seriously bitter aftertaste. Let's start at the very bottom of the supply chain, the dirt. To understand the absurd price tag on your receipt, you have to understand the fragile biology of a coffee bean. Over 60% of the world's coffee is Arabica, that smooth, high-quality bean you get at your local specialty shop. Arabica is basically the high-maintenance diva of the plant world. It demands perfect temperatures, perfect altitude, and perfect rainfall. But Mother Nature is officially on strike. Brazil, the undisputed king of Arabica, is getting absolutely baked by historic droughts and unprecedented heat waves. Scientists aren't calling this a bad season anymore. They're calling it a permanent structural deficit driven by climate change. Okay, so Arabica is dying off. What about the cheap stuff, the instant coffee? That's made from Robusta beans, mostly grown in Vietnam. Robusta is supposed to be, well, robust. But thanks to the El Niño weather pattern, Vietnam's coffee belt has been scorched earth. But here is the darkest punchline. Vietnamese farmers aren't just fighting the weather. Sick and tired of terrible profit margins year after year, thousands of them are taking chainsaws to their coffee trees to plant durian, a spiky, awful-smelling fruit that sells to China for a massive markup. The coffee supply isn't just dropping, it's being intentionally wiped off the map. Fewer beans means panic, and panic means sky-high prices. Now, let's pretend by some miracle a farmer actually harvests a bag of beans. Getting that bag to your local cafe is where the real nightmare begins. Welcome to the Red Sea. Historically, cargo ships hauling coffee from Asia and East Africa would cruise right through the Suez Canal, a nice, efficient shortcut to Europe and the Americas. But geopolitical tensions and missile strikes in the Middle East have turned the Red Sea into an active war zone. Major shipping lines looked at the burning freighters and said, yeah, hard pass. Instead, they're rerouting these massive container ships all the way around the Cape of Good Hope at the southern tip of Africa. Imagine calling an Uber to get across town, but your driver decides to detour through a neighboring state to avoid a massive pileup on the interstate. That detour adds up to 3 extra weeks of transit time. Do you know how much diesel a massive cargo ship burns in 3 extra weeks? Do you know how much marine insurance costs when you're sailing through pirate-infested waters? Millions. And oil prices are already surging because of those exact same conflicts. Oil makes the fuel for the ships, and oil makes the fertilizer for the coffee farms. It's an endless, agonizing loop of expenses, and every single extra mile that ship sails is tacked right onto your tab. As if war and drought weren't bad enough, European politicians decided to get in on the action. In their noble quest to save the planet, the EU rolled out the EUDR, the Deforestation Regulation. Great concept. Don't buy coffee from deforested land. The execution? An absolute bureaucratic train wreck. The law requires exporters to provide pinpoint GPS coordinates for the exact plot of dirt where every single bean was grown. Imagine a 60-year-old farmer in rural Ethiopia working half an acre just to scrape by, suddenly needing satellite tracking tech and a corporate lawyer just to sell his harvest. he can't afford it. The mom and pop farmers get squeezed out, leaving only the massive corporate mega farms who can foot the bill from millions in compliance costs. The supply bottleneck gets even tighter. Prices climb even higher. It's a tax on existence, wrapped up in green tape. But hold on. Climate change, detours, and tariffs explain why the wholesale price of coffee went up. But it absolutely does not explain why your iced latte cost nearly $10. Remember that Reddit comment? This is because they can. Let's look at the actual numbers dancing on the stock tickers. Based on analytics from Yahoo Finance and recent ag market reports, Arabica futures on the ICE exchange have smashed through $3.44 a pound, record highs we haven't seen since 1977. Meanwhile, Robusta, the bean that was supposed to be the cheap alternative, has seen an insane 92% spike in just 1 year. Smelling blood in the water, hedge funds and Wall Street speculators realized coffee was on the ropes. So what did they do? They poured billions of dollars into coffee futures, hoarding paper coffee that hasn't even been harvested yet. Net long positions by speculators hit record highs, creating an artificial squeeze that completely distorted the physical market. And the massive retail corporations, the grocery monopolies, and giant coffee franchises, they are loving every second of this. Financial data shows that the actual cost of coffee beans only makes up about 5% to 10% of the price of your takeaway cup. But they don't let a good crisis go to waste. They point at CNBC and say, "Look, there's a global crisis. We have to raise our prices." But here is the dirty little secret they pray you never figure out. Economists call it greedflation. When their raw material costs go up by 20 cents, they jack up the price of your coffee by $1.50. Their profit margins aren't shrinking, they're inflating. And when the shipping crisis eventually cools off, or the weather normalizes, do you honestly think your coffee is going back down to $4? Hell no. They've stress-tested your psychological limits, and they found out you are addicted enough to pay $8. The crisis will eventually pass, but that price tag is forever. So, to answer big_distribution's question on Reddit, what the hell is going on? We are living in an era where every sip you take is deeply hardwired into the chaos of the world. Your morning coffee is a liquid ledger. It holds the receipts of a burning planet, the fuel bills of rerouted cargo ships, the ink of European pencil pushers, and the bottomless greed of corporate monopolies. The era of cheap coffee isn't a warning anymore, it's ancient history. You aren't just buying to survive, you are paying a global tax for a system that is fundamentally broken to its core. Next time you tap your card for that morning brew, take a really good look at it, because you aren't just drinking caffeine, you are drinking the reality of April 2026.